This week's Retail Week is brought to you by Avail, Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Never stop pushing. Hello again, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. It's Paul Schrimpf, and Eric is back in the house.
Yes.
After a couple trips. Most recently, just got back from TFI, or the Fertilizer Institute Outlook Conference, which
Correct.
is all the big companies, big and small, talk about where the different nutrient supplies are headed and markets are headed, both up and down. So was the verdict.
Well, what was the verdict? Well, Paul, it's a good news, bad news scenario, I guess. I mean, basically everyone at the Outlook Conference who were talking about the macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, were positive that they would be growing. Projections are about 3% annually over the next 5 years between now and 2022. That's the good news. The bad news, Paul, is basically 100% of that market growth will be coming from outside the U.S. and North American markets. They're projecting those markets to be flat to slightly down over the next 5 years, and it basically looks like if fertilizer demand is going to be growing, it's going to be coming from outside the North American market.
Interesting. Well, we just got off the phone, a couple of us, with the folks at ARA talking again about the Adapten acquisition and where the company is going. And ARA is interesting in that they really invested in the technology side from a precision ag technology side. They've got they have the EC reader that's largely used in specialty crops, but also to some degree in row crops. So just talking about the idea of efficiency and the idea of fertilizer efficiency and some of the things that they're going to be bringing to the market and talking about, and really you don't hear that much from fertilizer manufacturers. You hear that from a lot of the companies that are trying to project technology out to talk about fertilizer efficiency and adding value in that front. So with the down, flat, or not a down market, but a flat market, trying to add value to the fertilizer side, ARA is saying the right things, I think, in terms of they want to work with retailers to try and create the value and increase efficiency, even if the amount of products coming down, getting away from the pounds to the ground kind of thoughts, and really getting into, okay, how do we take these nutrients and really make them as efficient as possible? So.
Yeah, it's interesting too, Bob, because I know one of the things that was mentioned several times at the Outlook Conference was the fact that the fertilizer market being as flat as it has been or down the last couple of years, that the investment in the technology side has been a little lacking, quote unquote. So I suppose that there is definitely an opportunity for more technology to come into that marketplace.
Yeah, and that's all really what we're talking about. Just finished an issue of Precision Ag Professional, and both of the folks that we talked to on a profile side from retailer and consultants are talking about fertilizer efficiency and how much more we can do and how much more there is to learn. So there's a lot of opportunities there, and it'd be great for on the big fertilizer side to see more investment in research and so forth, and them weighing in. So good. Well, we'll be back with a couple of other news items after the break.
We want our farmers to be successful, and if they're spending money to put on phosphate in particular, we like to put Avail with it so that a lot more of that gets into the plant. We know that a majority of it gets tied up in the soil before a plant has a chance to work with it. So we'd like to put Avail to increase that availability to the crop.
Well, welcome back, and now for something completely different, herbicides.
Yeah, Paul, I know a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about all the debate regarding dicamba and of course, the ongoing debate about glyphosate in places like the EU and California, I had made the comment that it looked like not the R&D lab is where we're going to see a lot of activity in 2017 and 18, but in the courtroom. And of course, since we made that projection, the folks in Arkansas have ruled that dicamba cannot be used after April 15th in 2018. And as promised, Monsanto is going to take them to court over that. And we also found out the other day that the California labeling law that basically is calling for glyphosate to be listed on its label as potentially causing cancer, Monsanto and a group of growers are also going to take California to court to fight that labeling law. So, Paul, like I said, the lawyers are going to be the most happy people in 2018 because they're going to be making a lot of money on all these lawsuits.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that because I don't know how that's going to play out. So the next thing you're heading to is ARA.
Yeah, ARA here at the end of the month in November, 28th through the 30th. And the one bit of big news out of ARA, Paul, is that meeting, which will be taking place in Phoenix. They have added Sonny Perdue, our Secretary of Agriculture, to the speaking docket, so he'll be up last. So if you're going to be at that event, you'll have to stay through his speech there on Thursday, the 30th of November. But looking forward to seeing Sonny talk in person. Paul, I've never seen him talk. I hear he's a really good speaker, and we'll find out in person.
Well, it's always great to hear from the horse's mouth what's going on in D.C. And I'd like to say along the same lines, Ted Cruz, could you please free Bill Northey? Please, for basic. He's a great guy. He'll do a great job. What else is happening? Oh, the Environmental Respect Awards is also going to kick off pretty much, or it's maybe not official kickoff, but it's kicking off at ARA.
Right. There'll be a video, and actually I found out while I was on my trip to the Outlook conference in New Orleans that I get to present the video before the crowd at ARA. So if you like seeing me on the videos, you'll get to see me in person, suit and tie, at the ARA convention.
And if you don't, please don't throw tomatoes. Thank you.
Check those at the door, please.
Well, that's it for this edition of Crop Life Retail Week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you to this week's video sponsor, Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer from Verdesian Life Sciences.